Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Dr. Suhaida. My name is Noorahani binti Zulkifli and today I will be presenting character education policies, the challenges and prospect for integrating culture in school. So for the sake of today's presentation, first I'm going to briefly explain what is character education. Basically, it is teaching values like integrity, respect, and responsibility to help students to become a good people. So this is to encourage positive behavior, and the idea is that we don't want to produce a graduate or student that only have a certain skill set in in certain industry, but we also want to produce a student that have this good moral value that could be beneficial for our nation in the future. So we don't really want to produce someone that is greedy or someone that is corrupted for the sake of our nation. Next, why is it important? Because it supports FPK and MEB goal, and also it builds ethical and balanced students, and also it supports SDG 4 and also SDG 16 according to UNESCO 2021. So, what are the policies that support this character education? The policies include Civic and Citizenship Education Policy 2019, Moral Education Curriculum 2013, Sekolah Integriti and Rukun Negara, and also MEB 2013 and 2025. However, there's a lack something that is lacking in this policy implementation because these implementation policies are implemented in uneven condition. So it is somehow these policies are somehow good, but there's a weak in classroom practice, and most of teachers in schools they are exam oriented because as we all know, especially in secondary education, in high school, we have this big exam which is SPM, and all of these teachers they tend to focus on producing someone that could get A in certain subject for their SPM rather than focusing on some producing a good students with a good moral. So the idea of getting good grades is deeply engraved in our teachers and our nation, so that this idea of character policy and education is somehow left behind and unevenly implemented in classroom. Next, we're going to look at the challenges in this implementation of this character education. First is teacher readiness. As I said before, there's lack of training for moral instruction. Most of these teachers, they are trained to teach students based on the exam orientation. For example, what kind of skill set that you can use in the exam and how to achieve this kind of grade for your exam. So most of the time, they have this template of planning teaching planning lesson that they usually memorize or use their template from their seniors. So it's kind of a repeating process without the real consideration of character education. So there's also little socio emotional learning from these teachers. Next, fragmented programs. As I said before, there's like 4 programs in character education. There's too many programs and this overlapping initiative by the government. So, of course, each of these programs have different goals and standard. Therefore, it's kind of hard to implement this program in all schools and for all students. So, the idea of this character education, in my opinion, it's somehow not something that you can achieve. The goal of this program is not something that you can achieve over 5 years. You need to have this kind of mindset that in order to develop a very good moral in your students, you need to have like a huge timeline and you need to invest in a lot of time for these students. For example, like a 10 years kind of implementation of program rather than somehow only 5 years, or after 5 years you want to see the results of this initiative. Somehow I don't think it can be done. Yeah, that's on my opinion. Next challenge is assessment difficulty. Most of the time when you are implementing this policy or this character education uh, program, you have a goal, but because you are developing a character and it is very subjective, you cannot have you cannot make an assessment for it, you cannot like make a test for it. If you make a test for it, of course the student can memorize the answer and then just answer it based on their logical knowledge without using it into practice. So It is very hard to measure the values of this program objectively, because of course character is very subjective, and there's also no national standard for this character policy, education policy. So next, we're going to look at several global models that we as a nation uh, can adapt or take as example. For example, Finland SEL training model, Japan Soji routine, also character framework from the UK. So what Malaysia can learn from this model is that first we need to strengthen our teacher training to create, um, to teach students to be have a good civic in their self, and also in, um, of course instead of making this different framework, we can combine all of this framework into one clear framework and give like a clear one several objective that we can achieve over the span of 20 years to make sure that this character education is really giving us the outcome that we wanted. So next, improve assessment tools. These assessment tools can be improved, such as like implementing practices, such as like conducting practical assessment for these students, and also train ethical leaders. This kind of controversial for me, but in my opinion, in order to produce a graduate that is good in their moral, have a very positive attitude, first you need to lead by example. So, for example, you cannot have this kind of leaders that are very corrupted, or these leaders, for example, whatever negative attitude that you have as a leader, you need to have like good attitude so that your followers can yeah uh see you as a role model. So maybe that's something that we could also reflect on. Next, recommendation to overcome this challenge. First is teacher training, which is include ethic pedagogy and use role play and moral discussion, of course. Next, national framework. Of course, as I said before, we can combine all of this program for consistency and make sure that this program align with all the ministries and also the voice of our own people. Next, better assessment. We can use, as I said before, maybe we can use something that is like more practical rather than like something something that does not subjective and practical, because this character education and outcome is more something like very subjective, so you cannot really assess them on papers. So ethical leadership, this is again very controversial. Of course, leaders, whoever it might be, students, leaders like parents, teachers, and maybe leaders, our prime minister, the ministries, cabinet, or whatever, they need to have this good model and integrity in order for these students and these citizens to follow them. So because they are our leaders, they can become our role model. So in order to have to produce a good moral citizen, of course, the leaders need to lead by example. Next, family and community. Parents need to reinforce these values and reflect multicultural Malaysia. Um, because learning is not something that only occurs in classrooms. So parents need to also play their role and reinforces these good moral values at home as well. And to conclude everything, what I can say is that this policy is a very good policy, but there's a week of implementation. But I cannot really blame whoever it is, because as I said before, we as a Malaysia, we all know that we are very exam oriented. So usually we tend to left this kind of character education behind, and in order to have this really good outcome based on this character education, we need to improve training, framework, and leadership. And this is very like we need to start it from our root cause, which is our mindset. Our mindset is right now is very exam oriented, and most of the time we want to achieve like certain KPIs and whatever, like certain good grades for this school or whatever, which neglecting this character development among our own students. So by maybe improving our training for our teachers, framework, and leadership, we can build a real integrity culture. And that is all from me. Thank you so much.